I'll never forget the way her laughter sounded that night. The night she returned from a week-long business trip. It wasn't the warm, infectious laugh I used to love, the one that could lift my spirits no matter how exhausting my day had been. This was different. Sharp. Forced. Careless. It felt hollow, like a poorly rehearsed performance. And in that moment I knew. I had sensed it long before that night, of course. The signs had been there, scattered like breadcrumbs leading to a truth I wasn't ready to face. Let me start from the beginning. Gail and I had been married for 9 years. Our life together wasn't perfect, but it was ours. She had always been dedicated to her career, working long hours, constantly pushing herself. I admired her drive. But over the past few months, something had shifted. She was working late more often, traveling frequently, always rushing around like there was never enough time for us, for our home, for anything but her job. At first I brushed it off. I told myself that her hard work was paying off when she landed that big promotion. We celebrated, of course. A nice dinner a weekend away. Anything to show her how proud I was. But as the days passed, small things began to gnaw at me. Her phone, once an afterthought in our evenings together, became an extension of her hand. She guarded it fiercely, taking it with her everywhere, even into the bathroom. The screen was always angled away from me, notifications hidden. She had never been secretive before. Then there was the gym. Gail had never shown the slightest interest in fitness. Yet suddenly, she was going several times a week, coming home with a tan that didn't belong to the dim lighting of a corporate office. The biggest red flag came the night she returned from one of her trips. Something about her was off. The too casual way she dropped her bags by the door. The restless energy in her movements. The way she tried too hard to act normal. And then her phone buzzed. I wouldn't have checked it. I almost didn't. But something deep inside me, some instinct honed by months of doubt, urged me forward. The name on the screen made my stomach drop. Spencer. Her boss. I didn't open the message. I didn't need to. The way her face paled when she saw me standing there. The way her fingers trembled as she snatched up the phone. Those were answers enough. More signs followed. The scent of unfamiliar perfume on her clothes. More nights spent at the office. More distance. Each time I confronted her, she brushed it off, telling me I was overthinking. But I knew. Deep down I knew. Then came the moment that sealed everything. Over dinner, she announced, with an air of nonchalance that made my blood run cold. I've got another business trip coming up. A week-long conference. A pause, then the casual addition. Spencer will be there too. She said it as if it were nothing. As if it didn't matter. But it did. I nodded, forced a smile, pretended to believe her. Sounds great, I said, though inside something had snapped. The next morning, as she packed her bags, I made a decision. I wasn't going to sit in the dark anymore. The day she left, I hired a private investigator. Days passed, and then the report came in. The investigator had followed them. A resort. A beach. A bar. Photo after photo. Each one a knife to the gut. Them standing too close. Laughing like they had no care in the world. Their hands brushing. Their eyes locked in a way that told a story without words. And then, the final blow. A picture of them kissing by the pool, wrapped in each other's arms as if they had forgotten the world outside their stolen paradise. I stared at the images, my hands cold, my pulse steady. The proof was undeniable. I had suspected, I had feared, but now I knew. There was no rage, no screaming, just a quiet, bitter clarity. The next day, I met with a lawyer. I didn't hesitate. Our prenup was ironclad. She would leave with what she brought into this marriage, nothing more. She had already taken enough from me. My trust, my time, my love. I wasn't going to let her take anything else. And so I waited. The night she returned, I was ready. She stepped through the door, tossing her bag aside, kicking off her heels. Hey babe, she said lightly, as if nothing had changed, as if she hadn't just spent a week in another man's arms. And then she laughed, that same hollow, brittle sound I'd heard before. She didn't notice at first. But then her eyes landed on the dining table. The photo. Our wedding picture. Torn in half. Scattered around it. The remnants of our marriage certificate. Shredded beyond recognition. She froze. Her face drained of color. Her eyes darted to mine, wide searching. What is this? She whispered, her voice barely audible. I leaned back in my chair, arms crossed, my gaze steady. Why don't you tell me, Gail? Her mouth opened, but no words came. She was scrambling, grasping for a way out. But there was none. She had already made her choice. And so had I. In her calm facade, the confident, put-together wife I had once known was gone. In her place stood a woman desperate, scrambling to cover up a truth that could no longer be hidden. Don't play dumb with me, I said, my voice steady but cold. You've been lying to me for months. The business trips, the late nights at the office, the sudden obsession with the gym. You think I didn't notice? I pointed at the photo on the table, the damning image of her and Spencer wrapped around each other, like they had never had a care in the world. Slowly, I pulled out my phone and began swiping through the collection I had gathered. The photos from the investigator. The ones taken at the resort, at the bar, at the restaurant. Image after image of her and Spencer, hands intertwined, their gazes locked with an intimacy she had long denied me. Gail's lips trembled as she struggled to form words, but there was nothing left to say. The truth was already written all over her face. The carefully constructed mask she had worn for so long was slipping piece by piece. I can explain, she whispered, her voice cracking. A bitter laugh slipped from my lips before I could stop it. Explain? I repeated, shaking my head. Explain what, Gail? That you've been sleeping with your boss behind my back while I've been here, working my ass off to keep this house running. She shook her head frantically, her entire body vibrating with panic, as if denying it would somehow erase the reality in front of us. No, Thomas, you don't understand. It's not like that, she pleaded. I slammed my phone down on the table, the force of it making her flinch. Not like that, I spat, pulling up the first photo on my screen. A shot of them at the beach, arms wrapped around each other, grinning in the golden light of sunset. Then what is this, huh? What's this if it's not like that? Her mouth opened, but the words wouldn't come. She was searching for a way out, clawing for some excuse, some desperate lie to throw between us. But there was no covering up the truth now. I trusted you, Gail, I said, my voice rising with every syllable. I trusted you, and you lied to me for months. Did you think I wouldn't notice? Did you think I wouldn't figure it out? Tears welled in her eyes, but I felt nothing. No sympathy, no sadness, just a cold, burning anger that tightened in my chest like a fist. I had spent too much time feeling like a fool to care about her tears now. You were sneaking around, pretending everything was fine, I continued, the bitterness in my voice cutting through the silence like a blade. But all along, you were with him, Spencer. While I was out here trying to make sure we could afford the life you wanted, you were out there living a different one. Gail took a shaky step toward me, her hands reaching out as if she thought she could undo this with a touch. Thomas, please, she begged, her voice breaking. I know I messed up. I was confused. I never meant to hurt you. Stop, I snapped, holding up a hand. I don't want to hear it. It's too late for apologies. I stood, pacing the floor, trying to hold on to the composure that threatened to slip from my grasp. My heart was a mess, but I wasn't going to let her see that. Not now. Not when I had already made my decision. You've destroyed everything, I said, my voice calmer now but no less sharp. And now I'm done. Gail's face twisted in desperation, but there was no changing my mind. I've already filed for divorce, I continued, pulling a folder from the drawer and tossing it onto the table between us. The papers are in my lawyer's hands. They'll be sent to you tomorrow. Don't bother contesting it. You can thank the prenup for that. Her face went pale again. The panic in her eyes deepened. The prenup, she whispered, as if she had only now realized the full weight of what she had done. I crossed my arms, leaning against the table. Yeah, I said, my voice flat. It was solid. You'll get nothing more than what you came into this marriage with. She reached for the papers, her hands trembling. Please, Thomas, don't do this, she begged. We can work this out. I swear, I'll do anything. Therapy, counseling. I shook my head, cutting her off. No, it's too late for that, I said, my tone final. The trust is gone, Gail. I can't go back. You've already destroyed everything we built together. It's over. Her tears meant nothing to me now. I had nothing left to give. I stared at her coldly, my resolve hardening with every passing second. "I've got one more surprise for you," I said, my voice quiet but firm. She blinked, confused. What do you mean?" I didn't answer. Instead, I simply motioned toward the hallway. "Go to the bedroom. You'll see." She hesitated but eventually obeyed. I followed behind her, waiting for the moment the truth would fully sink in. When we stepped inside, her eyes immediately landed on the sight before her. All of her things, packed neatly into boxes. Clothes, jewelry, shoes, everything she had ever brought into this house. She froze, staring at the boxes in disbelief, the reality of the situation crashing over her like a tidal wave. "What's this?" she whispered, her voice hollow. I crossed my arms, standing in the doorway. "Those are your things, Gail. Take them and leave. I don't want you here anymore. I'm done." Her face crumpled, but I didn't soften. There was nothing left for me to feel. Not for her. Not after what she had done. Gail didn't say a word. She picked through the boxes, hands shaking as she stuffed a few items into a bag, then turned and walked out the door. The silence that followed was almost suffocating. But it wasn't the silence of loss. It was the silence of closure. It was done. But I wasn't finished. Not yet. I wasn't going to let her walk away from this unscathed. She had thought she could destroy everything I had worked for and move on without consequences. She was wrong. I sent the photos, the ones from the resort, the ones from the beach, the ones of her and Spencer, arms wrapped around each other, lips locked in betrayal. I sent them to her parents, her friends, everyone who had ever known us. I wanted them all to see the kind of woman she truly was. And I didn't stop there. I filed a lawsuit against Spencer and sent the evidence to HR. Within 2 days he resigned, his reputation in ruins. Gail wasn't spared either. The photos spread like wildfire. Her scandal the only thing anyone whispered about in her office. The walls closed in around her until there was nothing left. Eventually she quit too. The divorce was swift. With the prenup and the overwhelming evidence, she walked away with nothing. The house, the savings, everything was mine. She became a shadow of herself, abandoned by friends and family, her name forever tainted by the choices she had made. She moved away, trying to outrun the scandal, but no matter where she went, her past followed. Spencer disappeared too, never recovering from the fallout. As for me, I moved on, stronger, wiser, free from the lies. The past was behind me, and I wasn't looking back.